Hello everyone. Welcome back. For this video, or video number 11. Here are the guiding principles. Number 1. When both sides only have kings and pawns, it is essential to count how many moves each side will take to promote. Usually whoever gets there first will win the game. Number 2. Castling is a good idea, but if the king is on the back rank, without other pieces to defend it, it may be vulnerable to a back rank checkmate from a rook or queen. It's often a good idea to advance one pawn in front of the king to create an escape square and avoid mate. The detailed illustrations for these two videos will be presented as follows.
Oftentimes your chess game will go deep into the endgame, where all that is left is two kings and one pawn each. Then the race begins to see which pawn will promote first to become a queen and win the game. Let's check out some examples of pawn races. In this position, notice that white's pawn is only 3 moves away from promoting. Also, black's pawn is only 3 moves away from promoting. In this position, it's white to move. Let's see who wins the pawn race. White is only 2 squares away from promoting. Notice black's pawn is still 3 squares away. Black tries to catch up with b3, and now white is ready to reach the finish line and promote on the very next move. Black's pawn races forward, only 1 square away from promoting, but as we'll see, it's 1 square too far away. White gets to promote first, and by turning it into a queen, notice white delivers checkmate. Let's take a look at that position again. We are in the exact same position, but this time it's black to move. Does one single move make a difference? Let's see. Black plays b3, h6, b2, h7. Both pawns are just 1 move away from promoting. In this case, black promotes first with check, and notice the queen also threatens to capture the h7 pawn. So after the king moves out of the way, queen takes h7. Notice the difference of one single move was enough to decide which side would win the pawn race and ultimately win the game itself. Let's look at another example. It's white to move in this position. Which side is going to promote first? Notice black's pawn is only 5 squares away from promoting, and white's pawn is 6 squares away. White can turn this race around by advancing 2 squares on the first move with h4. Now white is only 4 moves away from promoting, and black is still 5 moves away. Let's watch the pawn race. Both sides are just 1 move away from promoting, but white gets to promote first and delivers a checkmate. Let's take a look at one more example. In this position, it's black to move. So far we have learned that the pawn that can promote first not only wins the pawn race, but usually will win the game because gaining a queen advantage first is usually enough to win. There are some cases where promoting first does not help. Let's take a look at this position. Black plays a2, white plays h7. Both sides are ready to promote, and black wins the pawn race by promoting first. Notice the new queen is lined up with black's king on the a1 to h8 diagonal. This could create some problems for black because after white promotes, white's new queen joins the a1 h8 diagonal, checking black's king, and also is looking at the queen right behind black's king, like this. So notice, once the black king moves, the queens are revealed, and white wins the queen. Now white is ready to win the king and queen versus king ending. So in this case, just because you win the pawn race doesn't always mean you're going to win the game. Now that you've learned the ins and outs of pawn races, it's your turn to test your skill with pawn races. Castling early in the game is generally a good idea because you do 2 things at once. You get your rook into the game, and you move your king toward the corner where he will be out of the way of most of the action in the center. Normally you want to castle to a side that has pawns available to protect your king from attack, like this, and like this. Oftentimes, you will have 3 pawns sitting directly in front of your king in a perfect row. This can provide a safe place for the king. However, these pawns also create a wall that the king cannot move through. And as you know, being able to move is one important way to avoid checkmate. In this position, you can see 3 pawns in front of black's king. Notice all of black's pieces have left the back rank, and the king is all alone. Remember, ranks are what we call rows in chess. What would happen if you were able to check the king on the back rank? Let's see. Rook to e8 delivers checkmate. Black's own pawns prevent the king from escaping the back rank. Let's look at this position again, but this time with a slight difference in the position. Do you notice the difference in this position? Black's pawn on h7 has moved to h6. This opens up a window for the black king in case white delivers a check on the back rank. Black escapes white's attack, and now it's white's turn to be cautious. If white tries to save a pawn with a4, a pawn may be saved, but the game will be lost. Notice white's back rank is completely unprotected. One of black's rooks can deliver a check. Let's say rook to d1, which forces rook e1. And now, after rook takes e1, it's checkmate. So how could white have avoided this back rank checkmate? Remember, the best way to avoid a back rank checkmate is to push a pawn in front of the king as a window for escape from the back rank. In this position, white could play h3, opening the h2 square for escape if black delivers a check on the back rank. Let's take a look at one more position. In this position, should white capture the pawn on b6? When you think about moving a piece, always ask, what is the space left behind? In this case, if the rook leaves b1, the back rank is left behind. This allows black to finish the game with a back rank checkmate. Obviously, white cannot allow this to happen, so let's see what white should do instead. White needs to open a window for the king's escape and move one of the pawns in front of the king. But which pawn should be moved? Let's try g3. This does open a window for white's king to escape the back rank, but it also weakens light squares right in front of white's king. This allows black to play bishop to h3, preventing the white king from escaping the back rank. So g3 actually makes white's king less safe. This leaves us with moving the h-pawn. After h3, white's king now has an escape square on h2, so back rank checkmate is no longer an issue. White can now capture the pawn on b6 with the rook on the next turn if black leaves it unprotected. Now that you've learned how to deliver and avoid back rank checkmate, it's your turn to practice back rank checkmates.
The next topics are all about weak targets and king safety. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you then.